Halloween night was a special moment that I've been waiting to celebrate with my family for years. I was 12 years old and I wanted to do something especially different this year. My friends and I had made plans to spend a scary night together. I found out that our house is one of the oldest houses in the neighborhood, which is said to be full of stories, and we decided to spend that night there. When Halloween evening came, we put on our costumes, took our lanterns, and set off for the old house. When we stood in front of the door, there was a strange light that seemed to invite us in. When we knocked on the door opened and an old woman let us in. She introduced herself as Matilda the Witch and said that this house once belonged to her grandmother. Matilda claimed to us that scary things had happened in this house and that ghosts were walking around. He began to tell us how dangerous it was for us to visit this house that night. However, we were young and curious and believed that the stories were all made up. Matilda invited us into the house and we started walking around inside. We were hearing strange sounds in the corridors, observing strange shapes. We started walking around wearing different costumes in consecutive rooms. Each room had a different theme of horror. At this time, however, Matilda claimed that ghosts were real and that she could summon them. For a frightening moment, a ghostly figure appeared before our eyes. Immediately after, the room suddenly began to cool down, and things in the room began to move spontaneously. We wanted to leave the room quickly, but the door was locked. Matilda began to perform a strange ritual to recall the ghost we saw. The ghost was walking around us. We were shaking in fear. Suddenly, it was as if we had been frightened by the invisible hands of ghosts. At the same moment, the candle in Matilda's hand went out. The room was plunged into darkness, and the ghosts disappeared. The door suddenly opened, and we went out. It's been years since this happened, but I still don't fully understand what happened. Matilda's house and the reality of that night are still mysteriously in my head. Maybe we really encountered ghosts that night. Maybe it was just an illusion. But on Halloween night, I still remember that moment, and it was an experience that I will not forget for the rest of my life. The incident we experienced that night has become a story of our town. My friends and I have repeatedly told each other about the events we experienced at Matilda's house, but we still did not know for sure what happened. With the influence of that night, we started to see Halloween as an even more magical and mysterious day. Over the years, Matilda's house was demolished and a new building was built in its place, but the memories of that night were still vivid. We had no information about who Matilda was or why she lived in that old house. Some people believe that she was a real witch, while others thought that she was just a strange woman. When Halloween comes every year, the townspeople remember that night and tell stories that Matilda's house is full of ghosts. After this event, Halloween became an even more special day, and the townspeople continued to celebrate this celebration with even greater enthusiasm, filled with the mystery and the excitement of that night. That night was a moment when Halloween for me took on a real meaning. That mysterious experience we had at Matilda's house remained a memory that I will never forget for the rest of my life, and made me see Halloween as a day filled not only with costumes and sweets, but also with mystery and adventure. When Halloween night came, my friends and I started preparing. As we do every year this year, we were excited to explore the legendary story of the curse of Witch Morgan in our town. Witch Morgan was a witch who lived in our town many years ago and cursed according to rumors that she left the town. According to claims, every year on Halloween night he would come back and choose someone to strengthen his curse. My friends John, Sarah, and I decided to go after this story. We started researching the curse of Witch Morgan and started rummaging through old newspaper articles at the local library. We didn't find much to prove that the story was true, but our curiosity was further piqued. On Halloween night, we dressed ourselves in costumes and set out to go to Witch Morgan's old house. The neighborhood where the house was located was older and forgotten than other parts of the town. It was a dark night when we stopped in front of the house, where a light wind was blowing and leaves were flying around us. When we knocked on the door of the house, we were greeted by an old woman. The woman's name was Agatha, and she began to tell us the history of the house. Agatha claimed that the house had been abandoned for years and that the story was largely made up. However, we wanted to test the curse of Witch Morgan, and she insisted that we come in. As we were walking around the house, we started hearing strange noises. In one of the rooms, John found a secret passage, and we entered curiously. The secret passage led to a dark cellar under the house. There was a room in the cellar, lit with symbols and candles etched into the walls. Suddenly, the room was plunged into darkness, and the door closed and locked on its own. We had a moment of panic, but then we noticed figures appearing around the candles that lit up the room. The ghost of Morgan the witch was in front of us. As the ghost's eyes were shining, he approached us and asked if we wanted to break his curse. At that moment, we realized that the way to break the curse was to help him make up for his past mistakes. Witch Morgan gave us tasks as a way to break her curse, and we accepted. The story ends here because the task of breaking the curse took quite a long time, and our life changed after this adventure with the ghost of Morgan the witch. As we tried to correct the past mistakes of Witch Morgan, we began to respect the history of the town and ourselves more. Tonight, we learned that Halloween is not only about costumes and candy, but also a celebration of forgotten stories and mysteries. When we spent time with the ghost of Witch Morgan, we had the opportunity to learn her story more closely. He explained that he took the wrong path in his younger years and remembers the people he cursed with real regret. The ghost expressed that instead of harming the town and the residents of the town, he had a desire to protect them. The tasks that the ghost gave us included researching the history of the town and getting the necessary information to break the curse. Each of these tasks helped us to learn more about the history of the town and the relationships of Witch Morgan. Also, during this process, we also talked to the residents of the town and found out their thoughts about Morgan the witch. Finally, we have access to key information that helps us break the curse of Witch Morgan. The ghost thanked us when we had this information, and his eyes began to shine again. At that moment, he destroyed himself and disappeared. When we left the room, we came out of the cellar and noticed that the strange sounds inside the house had stopped. By the end of that night, as part of our town, we had broken the curse of Witch Morgan and restored her soul to peace. This experience showed that the true meaning of Halloween is to explore the history of the town and confront the past, the story of which Morgan has now become an important part of the town's traditions, making this night even more meaningful. Halloween is no longer just a celebration filled with costumes and candy, but is also celebrated as a day that honors the history of the town and pays homage to the stories of the past. This experience will be an unforgettable memory for my friends and me, and this adventure he had with the ghost of which Morgan reminded us how important it can sometimes be to discover the secrets of the past. Many years ago, a Halloween night we had in our town was unforgettable. My friends and I decided to go to an old and abandoned amusement park. This amusement park had closed a long time ago, and according to local legends, he cursed this place. Many people claim to have experienced strange events here. On Halloween night, me, Emily, and Jake and I approached the gates of the amusement park. We felt brave wearing scary costumes. We took our lanterns and opened the door. At first glance, everything was quiet, and we could only hear the moaning of the wind. When we moved into the amusement park, we started to see the shadows of strange figures, inert Ferris wheels, abandoned toys, and worn-out clowns reflecting the fatigue of years were everywhere. The atmosphere was really creepy. Suddenly, we heard a scream and turned around. A group of people dressed as ghosts surrounded a screaming girl. The girl's screams got louder and louder, and this group of people, it seemed as if they were doing something with her. We quickly approached and began to run to the girl's aid. While we were struggling to save the girl, these people in ghost clothes started attacking us. However, we were not afraid and defended ourselves. Meanwhile, we rescued the screaming girl and tried to escape. People in ghost clothes were running after us, but we managed to escape from them in the end. When the girl's screams started to stop, we asked her what had happened. The girl said that she was caught and scared by people in ghost clothes, and that they wanted to be part of a strange ritual. The girl told us that this amusement park was used by a local witch society. That night, we decided that we had to stop this terrible ritual in our town. Under the guidance of the girl, we reached the right of the witch society using the secret passages of the amusement park. There, we encountered strange spells and mysterious rituals. We started clashing with members of the witch society and managed to stop the ritual. The members of the witch society ran away and left the amusement park. We rescued the girl and left her somewhere safe. After this incident, the fact that the amusement park was cursed became even more obvious. This scary experience showed that Halloween is not only about costumes and candy, but also full of dark and dangerous mysteries. Tonight was one of the most unforgettable and scary Halloween experiences that I had with my friends